Hello, everyone, and welcome to Awakening Adventures, where we will hear real stories from people who have had their spiritual awakening and what they were guided to do with that new awareness afterwards. My name is Venus Castleberg, also known as the Home Whisperer, where I use my gifts to help real estate agents clear the energy from stuck homes so they can sell with greater ease. My guest today, super fun. You're never going to guess what we're going to talk about. After selling his very successful residential moving company, Tony pursued a formal education in Feng Shui with the intention to share what he learned with others, spreading prosperity. This pursuit had led him to learn other crafts such as vibrational healing sound therapy, angel therapy, and mediumship. Today, he is the only tuning fork master teacher in Canada to teach others somatic energies, bringing a higher realm of teachings to an ever-evolving global audience. Welcome, Tony. It's so wonderful to have you.
Thank you very much, Venus, for the offer and the invitation to come. It was my pleasure.
Awesome. Well, please tell us, how did you go from mover to medium?
Well, it's quite the story. When I had many businesses before I ended up with the moving one. We had furniture before that, but then that basically went into full residential moving after we sold the furniture business, and we ran that for almost 20 years. And it was very interesting that a lot of times we would move somebody into a home from where they were to this new home, and I just had this feeling. It just came out of nowhere that the couple would be split apart within 18 months or a couple of years. And sure enough, they'd call us, our company, to move out again, but then it would be separately. Most often, they would be moving out one person into another home or something. And I just thought there was a pattern there. So I suppose I always had the gift of feeling it, but I just thought it was a coincidence because when we first start doing this, we think it's all coincidences, and I think it's all we don't make the synchronicities happen, and it varies. One thing led to another, and we started that company with basically nothing. So we had about 3 years of really, really tough years where we were spending more than we were bringing in. At one point, we were making about $1,500 a month, which is nothing. That's even less than it would take to run a truck. So we ran that for a couple of years, and we started. We were cashing in our RSPs just to keep the business going, and I was the only one working at the time. So I was always looking for different ways to increase our sales or to bring people in. And it was really tough. And so I remember one afternoon coming home after finishing a morning job, and I was just going to come in for a quick lunch and then go out again. And then I passed my living room at the time, and at that point it was Oprah that featured a Feng Shui master out of China. And in those 10 seconds it took me to pass the room, all I heard was, "This is the way to bring money into your home," and that sort of caught my ear. If she would have said that before or after, I would have missed it. So it was just very interesting. That exactly when I passed the room is when I heard this term. So I watched it. It was a 45-minute show, and it basically talked about the energies in the home and how those energies can attract everything into your life. And there's 9 basic parts of what makes us whole. There's prosperity, there's love, there's our health, the family, there's children, travel. All these things are put together in a very cohesive way so that harmony is a result. And then I kept thinking to myself, like I was out in the areas, and there wasn't that many homes next to me, and nobody comes to visit. So I in the beginning I thought it was that people had to see a lot of these things that I would do, because Feng Shui is all about placement of furniture, of colors, of designs, textures in certain places in the home. And it just was very odd how that would work out. So I figured, okay, I'm going to need more information on this. So the first thing I did was I went to my local bookstore, and when I walked in, I asked the lady, I'd like a book on Ben Gay. I had no idea even she says, what? And I kind of explained to her what it is, and she says, oh, sir, that's Feng Shui. So she pointed me to the right area. I picked out a book. I needed a lot of pages, a lot of pictures, and that would sort of really illustrate to me, really, I wanted to get a really good hold of this concept. So I bought a couple of books and started reading it. One of the first things was get rid of clutter. Get rid of the things that are in the way. The thing when you're walking into your home, you're tripping over shoes, you got coats and everything in a closet, and you can barely fit your own stuff in there. That's all about cluttering your energy together, and this is why there's no room for prosperity to come in. You know, things like when you're walking into your front door, if right away there's a mirror right there, it reflects that energy back out. So you never have a mirror facing the front door going outside. Just things like that, and 200 other things, you know. So I started reading the book and started really getting the hold of it. Another thing is about water, any water elements. So whether it's a bird bath or whether it's a water fountain, something to do with water to entice energy to start flowing in your home. And the biggest areas in your home is your money section. And so in this way, it is basically from your front door to the very back left corner is a money section. So the whole house is divided into 9 separate sections, and the money is the far back left side in the corner. And that happened to be my, in this case, it was my breakfast nook, and they said put a water fountain there. So you need a water fountain here and there. So I was going to go out shopping for a couple of water fountains, but being a guy, I brought 9. I wanted to make sure I got this right, and I had them everywhere. I started decluttering things, getting things out of the way, and because I had the time, it wasn't that busy. That's why we weren't very prosperous at the time. So I had the time to work on my home, and that was sort of my things that I just grabbed onto. So it took about roughly 2 to 3 weeks to really set the home up the way I thought it would be pretty good. And after that, we just started to get back to work. It was spring was coming, more people were moving, we were getting more calls, and so I was right into work again. About a month later, 6 weeks later, my wife said, today's a special day. And I go, right away I was thinking, is it not our anniversary or something? I hope it's not something I've missed. He says, no, this is, for the last 3 years we've been losing money until last month. We're breaking even and made a little bit. And I said, well, it has been busy, so I could see that. But she says, no, I think it's the Feng Shui that's doing it. And then it just, I had totally forgotten about it. After 5-6 weeks of work, you just forget. And you just let everything work on its own. And it did. It started really taking off. In fact, a lot of the adjustments we were doing, I was keep going with those and to make it even more powerful. And the sales almost doubled every single month for months. It was just at a point that I couldn't keep up with it. About a year later, it was still, so I had to get another truck, I had to get more guys, so I had to really set it all up where I could follow this growth, which I never had 3 years prior to that. So it was just my commitment that I say something has to work. And it was great, because so we ran that business for another few more years, and we went from $1,500 a month to $50,000 a month. And And at that point, I just couldn't keep up. Like, it was just no way. It was just myself, my wife, and I had about 15 guys, but 3 trucks, and I still couldn't keep up. So I had a choice. I had a choice to either sell the business, this successful business, the way it is, or expand it to such a point where I could really maybe make it bigger. But something inside of me said, no, just sell it the way it is, because right now you're on a growth streak. Yeah, this is the time to sell when you're at the top of the heap, sort of thing. And profit was really, really good in that way, because I didn't have that many employees in the storage shed that I had. I had about 12,000 square feet of storage in our. That's where we would store a lot of our customers' belongings until their house was ready, if it's in renovation or whatever. So we had about 250 of those crates in a 12,000 square foot area. So it was really well done. And I bought a forklift truck, $13,000. I didn't have any money on me when I walked in, and I walked out with this machine. So it almost like everything was just following me. Everything was just easy. I didn't have to struggle. And later when I look back, it was all about that harmony. When you've got harmony surrounding you, it's like you could walk into total disarray and everything comes to order when you show up. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it previous to that. So I says, okay, well, let's sell this business now that we're at a high. If we don't sell it, then we'll just turn around and just make it grow again. Well, within a couple of months, I had an accountant look at the books, and he says, I want this business. This is just amazing how this growth is. I definitely want this kind of a business. So he ended up buying it. And it was such an incredible feeling that after almost 20 years of no vacations, working 7 days a week, pretty much 18 hours a day, and this day, when the deal had gone through, I had promised that the new owner that I'd be with them for another 6 months, just to sort of show them the ropes and help them get to that point where I got to, of why, giving them their trade secrets, that kind of thing. So he picked me up that morning. I dropped off the truck that he bought, and I was about ready to work with him, and he says, Tony, we got this. We're taking you home. And I can't even describe the surreal feeling going back to my house after being dropped off at the end of the laneway. Our house is about 200 feet from the road, and that was the most quietest, peaceful 200 feet in my life, knowing that I didn't have a customer that was perhaps not happy with the previous day's move, or somebody didn't show up for a move, or whatever other problems that other movers experience in that business. I just went home and it was peace. And my wife was very surprised to see me. I says, yeah, no, I'm basically doing this. So it was sort of an evolution where, okay, now that I had that out of me, I had the time and obviously the money to be able to pursue another career. So I figured, well, I started this business for $45 and ended up selling it for almost $1 million, after, with no bills. Everything was paid for. So I think people would be really interested in that. So I started a whole career on business coaching, figuring that somebody would be interested in knowing how I did that. So I had a big auditorium that I rented, 500 blue chairs. It was just all, and I promoted this like crazy, and 11 people showed up out of 500. So, and 6 people were family. And it's like, okay, so I made the presentation, and it was, it was such a confusing time for me, because I thought people would really want to know how this can be done. Yeah. So after that, it says, okay, the universe always shows us an obstacle of where not to go. So that wasn't my thing. So my wife says, you know so much about Feng Shui. you know you can do it yourself, but you can't do that to other people. It's like doing your own painting in your house. You know, you could do your own, no problem, but there's no way you could do that quality in someone else's home. You know, they're expecting a much higher quality level and expertise. So I figured, okay, I should get some formal education on this. So that's what I did. I looked at the closest feng shui course that was happening. I'm in the Ottawa area, Canada, and the closest one was in New York, which is about a 9-hour drive for me. So I says, okay, we'll go to that one. And it was Nancy Santopietro, lovely lady. She's been doing feng shui for many, many years. She was a medium as well. And I just basically called her and I says, okay, I'm in. You don't have to convince me about the class. It's a 2-year program, very intense, lots of homework, lots of work. And I says, yeah, I have the time to do all this now. So on the day that I was going to go, the day before, I drove down and checked myself into the hotel. The conference room was right in the same hotel, so that way there was no driving on the morning of. So I walked in, and I was the first one there. And so as soon as I walked in, a lady said, well, hi, Tony. Glad to see you. And I said, how do you know my name? Well, you're the only guy. Oh, really? And 27 women showed up. And I said, you know, that was one thing I did not anticipate. I had no idea that this was mainly a feminine or female profession. So for a while there, in the morning, I really thought I made a mistake. I thought we were going to get right into feng shui and other things, but it didn't happen that way. We started sharing, we started clearing most of our energies of why we are there. I was in the back row, I was sort of embarrassed to be in the front, and every woman that shared their life to that point, it was all mainly in tears. The things that men had done to them, grandmothers or grandfathers, brothers, fathers abusing them, boyfriends abusing them. I got to the point where, by the time it got to me, I wasn't very happy being a guy, to be honest. I was really, like I was raised in the country. Like I'm a country boy. I would never cross a woman. And my father, he was very adamant about treating women with a high degree of respect, opening the doors and making sure they're safe, that kind of thing. So it was always, I was raised very differently, and I had no idea that this was so prevalent. I heard that there was domestic dispute, but I thought it was more isolated than it was, obviously. And on top of that, Venus, when they asked me, so what brings you to us? I says, well, to be honest, I had a great life. I hate to say this, but my parents danced around me. Anything I ever wanted, I wanted to play hockey, I got the hockey equipment. Anything I wanted to do, I wanted to be a pilot at one point. So they said, okay. So they paid for all my pilot's license and all the degree to get my license. So everything was just like, it was so easy. And there's 10 years difference between myself and my sister. She's 10 years younger. So all the pictures in the first 10 years was me, you know, and so I had no idea that life was so scarce. I lived in a very abundant world, but we didn't have a lot of money. But, you know, my dad and mom, they always treated us kids as the highest. Anything that they would do for us, they did out of love. So there was never any scarcity that I saw. Anyway, we had great things, and so anyway, as part of this course, we had to choose an elective as part of feng shui. So see, when you're going through a home to clear a home, there's different ways to clear it. So whether you're using sage, whether you're using you're using different smudging or whatever, and that didn't really interest me. There was a Reiki elective, which didn't interest me at the time. Keep in mind, I'm struggling with my masculinity at the same time here. And they said, how about essential oils? And no, I don't think so. It doesn't. But then they said, then there's tuning forks. Oh yeah, and what do they do? Well, they're pretty powerful, but to wear a tool belt. There's a tool belt that comes with it. I'm in. I'm in.
I love
Oh, it was this apron, the tool belt that had all of these different tuning forks, and there was a set of 6 or 7, and I was able to put them in my tool belt, and that made it. And then I was asking, what do these forks do anyway? And he says, well, that's a separate thing in itself. So I we were just about to go to lunch after we were introduced with the tuning forks, and it was about 5 minutes before we had to leave for lunch. So they says, for 5 minutes, we're going to give you a little tuning. So they hit these tuning forks together. Okay, this is what they sound like. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but these are ancestral sounds that are thousands of years old that our energies feel. One is liberates fear, and the other intuition. It enhances intuition. And so when these were played just around my head, literally for 5 minutes, then we had to go to lunch. When I went outside, this was in Brooklyn, and it was about roughly a 10-minute walk to get to the restaurant that we wanted to get to. And I've never seen so many vivid greens on the trees beside the street, and the blues in the sky was just like I'm looking at the sky. And the teacher, Nancy, says, Tony, stop looking at the sky. You look like a tourist. You know? So, and then they started to explain that these sounds were changed and buried, hundreds of years ago, because it opens up various portals in the body. And by using this in a home, you're actually tuning the home because it's in disarray energetically. That if there was somebody that went bankrupt in a home and then they sell the home, the matrix of that bankruptcy is still in the home, as you would know. It's called predecessor energy, is what we call it. And it sticks in the walls for at least 6 months. So when a new person comes in, all of a sudden, if they have a home office, it all of a sudden doesn't start doing very well because you take on the same lack of whatever was going on in the previous person. If it's a lack of sales, then even if your business was good, all of a sudden there was this drop. And that's what happened. So I'd bring my tuning forks into the home, and I started going in a counterclockwise around the perimeter of the inside of the home and start to hit these forks. And I'm talking to the house, saying just various things about these people have chosen you so that they can expand their family and so on. And the sounds radiated, and within about an hour, depending on where we were going, because it's a 3-bedroom house, you're doing 3 floors, the basement, main floor, and upstairs. You're tuning every room. Even the cupboards, I'm opening and clearing all of those, especially in the kitchen, because most of the disputes happen in the kitchen, of all things. That's where arguments happen. That's when people talk about their day. That's when people talk about various things. They hover around and congregate around the kitchen. So there's a lot of energy, positive or negative, around in the kitchen. So, and if it happens to be in the money section, that's even worse. If it's in disarray and it needs harmony. So when we started using these tuning forks, I really was very intrigued with them. So I ended up becoming a practitioner. So I can now tune a person. And then I got my master teacher's license about 15 years ago. And since then, I've been teaching other massage therapists, different types of consultants, how to be able to incorporate tuning forks, sounds, vibrations into their session to calm things before the client leaves. And so it's been quite a journey, a full circle that way. But I've always seemed to have this affinity to getting people to be in their homes. Like, for instance, right now, you're in your home. So if we were to do a session and we would actually have these sounds, these sounds are actually going through the walls of your home, and in a very short time, it brings that harmony in. If there was disarray, and yeah, so it's just it's been such an amazing journey up to this point, going from mover, where I'm lifting things physically, to moving energy. And I think the moving energy energetically is harder because it's all about intention, and these are things that you really have to learn. So it was quite an evolution for me to get through all that.
Well, that's really great. I love that. So, where did you discover the mediumship part? Like, where did that come in?
Well, one of the things about these forks is that the more that you use them, you're creating a field in the biofield. So when you're hitting let's say this one is the 852 hertz, it's the vibrations per second. This sound actually increases the intuition of a person. So when I'm tuning a client, I'm also getting tuned. And I've done probably close to 10,000 tunings over my career, over the last 15 years. I do close to 8 to 10 tunings a week, then not including when I'm teaching. I'm hearing these sounds all the time. So the level of intuition just sort of branches out that way. And it becomes that you just become a medium naturally. In the beginning, before I had the forks, it was very frustrating for me. My daughter at the time, my son, and my wife would walk into a crystal shop, and they would put a crystal in their hand. Hey, Dad, you should check this out. I'd put it in my hand. I'd feel nothing. I get nothing. They said, this feels like a milkshake. It feels like, oh, this is really strong. And I didn't feel anything. Like there was one crystal called Prenite, and it's a small little yellow stone, and my wife had it in her hand for like 10 seconds and had an instant migraine. I had it in my hand, and I put a whole box on it for like a half an hour. I felt nothing. It's just I ended up buying a Prenite bracelet, which nobody does. Nobody has, or a necklace, and there was like 100 beads around this necklace, and I wore it all day. I did feel a little light-headed, but that was it. But she says I could never do that. Like one bead made my head go wild. So the mediumship came just in the evolution of hearing the sounds all the time, and everybody can do that. But the sounds that we hear in our everyday life isn't like that. We hear noise. The sounds, even in our music, has been altered. It used to be in the 432 scale. So that is these are numbers numerically that adds up to 9. So 432, 396. So either 3, 6, or 9. It adds up to, and they're very powerful in terms of healing. They're more of songs or notes of the soul. But as soon as it was found out that these sounds wake people up, then there was a conflict with the church at the time, hundreds of years ago, that people weren't going to church because they just found God within themselves hearing the sounds. So they altered the frequency to our now 440, which is still a good frequency, but it's more a sound for the ear, not for the soul. So we get a very good, and it's like the do, re, mi, fa, there's a beginning and an end, all right? In the solfeggio frequencies, it just goes up and then it stops. Like it's you think it should still keep going, but it doesn't. It stops because you finish the rest of it. You start off, and then the sounds encourage your own energy to keep going. And so it's an open, we call it an open scale, where our 12-tone temperament is a closed. It's a beginning and an end. And it's limited thinking, limited perspectives, and we see things only in black and white. That's what those tones encourage the body and the energy to do. But the more you hear of these other frequencies, it opens everything up, and the possibilities are endless. So I played them all the time. I used to sleep with these forks all the time to get the energy of how these forks are, even when they're not struck. And that's the power of them. So after a while, we become friends. I've got some forks I've had for since the beginning, 15 years ago, 15, 17 years ago, I had that, and they're still very, very powerful. And so when I'm using it in my classes, they're very effective.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I know that you also do like sound bathing events. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, it was very interesting because before last year, in the January of 25, I think it was, yeah, 25, I was getting, Spirit was telling me through my meditations that needed to get into gongs. And I never had any gongs. I had one small one. But so anyway, I went to this one show and I said, okay, I'll check it out. So there was one gong that had a very nice sound, so I ended up buying one of those. And then I got the inkling to get a few crystal bowls. And I said, okay, so it was so confusing because for like when you're doing 15 years of just solid tuning forks, then all of a sudden, Spirit wants you to branch out into these other things. So, okay, so we figured we'll get a few bowls, and so I went online, and there was a number of one on Etsy, and Amazon has some, and they said no, it can't be those because it doesn't have the same energy. So there was a few websites I went on to, and these were handmade bowls, and they were like 4 times the price. It's like I was, oh my god! It's just like instead of paying $1,200, I'm paying $6,000 for a set. So I figured okay. They said, well, let's pick up at least six different bowls, 6 different sounds, and we can incorporate that into when people are coming in for a tuning session. You can incorporate the gong and incorporate the crystal bowls. So, but if people that know me know that when I do something, I don't just do it. I either go all the way or I'm not interested.
Right.
So
And
I picked up 11 instead of 6. So I brought 11 home and I placed it, and then it wasn't far after that I was getting the inkling to start doing sound bathing. I knew nothing about sound bathing. So for that, I needed more gongs. I needed more things. That was what I was feeling. So I went back to this lady, and I was going to spend no more than like $5,000 extra on this. And by the time we went through it, it was over 20,000. And I said, okay, well, we'll have to take some things off because this was way over my budget. I had no idea how expensive they would be. And it was really interesting because Denise, she runs this shop. She says, I don't know what it is, Tony. I know I've just met you for the first time, but I'm getting I can trust you. So you go ahead, and we'll work out the numbers after. And I says, really? He says, yeah, it's okay. So I brought the entire set home. I now have 25 crystal bowls, and I've got about 5 or 6 gongs, and I work with the tuning forks on top of that through these sound baths. But I didn't realize it was going to be sound baths right away. So it wasn't until I started seeing others do it, and I says, geez, I think these guys are good. How can I even measure up? And all that Spirit was saying is, we're going to tell you what to do while you're in. So it's like channeling a sound bathing event, and we're going to do it for you. You don't need the training. I says, okay, all right. So anyway, as trust to happen, we did our first in June of 2025. And it blew people away. It was just unbelievable. I had about 15 people here in my studio and another 20 people online because we did both. We had several cameras set up so people can see the bowls and the gongs and everything online, but nobody could see who was in the audience. And I could just see about halfway through, people in the audience were like falling over, and it was just like it was quite a spectacle to see, and people loved it, absolutely loved it. And there was one lady that was in the front row in my studio here. Never saw her before. She says she's never heard the tuning forks at any time. She's had a really tough life. She's in her almost she's 45. She says, "Today I found my 11-year-old self." I says, "What do you mean?" I says, I was abused by my father and grandfather, and when I was 11, I couldn't take it anymore, and I ran into the woods. I was there for a couple of days before they found me, and I'd never been the same since. And this sound bathing event, I was able to go back and bring out my 11-year-old self and reunite my 45-year body to this 11-year-old. And she was just sobbing and crying that they've reunited. And I haven't heard of such a thing before that. And there's other stories, and other people have felt so much. And it's starting to realize that when I'm channeling it, they're telling me what frequency the collective is needing right now. And those are the sounds and frequencies I hit for as long as they want that hit. And then I go to something else. And it's totally channeled, the whole thing. There's no training whatsoever. And this is unheard of in the sound practitioner or sound bathing. It's all about having it all planned out, and I don't have anything planned out. When I start, I have no idea where we're going and what we're doing, and I just put myself into that zone where I'm conscious enough, where I'm hitting the bowls and hitting the tuning forks and so on. And so it's been an amazing ride since I've been doing these. And then every month people have been signing up on automatically for this, and it's just such an incredible gift to be able to use. I think the gift is that you're using the gift, not that you have the gift, but the gift is that you found out what it is, now you're using it rather than just not using it. We hear about this all the time, Venus, when people have these incredible ways that they can do things, but they don't move forward with them because there's hesitation, fear, whatever. They might be judged. I think the real gift is that you're using it. You're doing something with whatever God gave you when you were born. And so this has been an incredible quest for me, going from mover to this. Like, it's people that see me now, they just can't believe the transformation. But yeah, that's where, and each time you hear the sounds, you become more intuitive, more hard-lined. I look at it as maybe in the beginning I was on Wi-Fi with spirit, and now I'm hard-lined. It's like it's like that blue coaxial cable that goes in, and it's 100%. Like, because now I feel stuff way before. Like somebody would just. I remember somebody picking up one of my clients, and it was the father of the daughter that I just tuned, and he's about to go out the door, and he says, "Yeah, I'm just working on this one deal, and I should have it all done by the end of the day." And I go, "Wait a sec, tell me a little bit about this." So he talks for like 30 seconds about this one deal he's working on, and he's about to invest like a lot of money in this. And I says, "No, don't do it. I'm just getting a no. I'm not saying no forever. I'm just saying no, not right now, because there's something they're not telling you." What do you mean? I don't know what it is, but I see that there's something they're not saying. Now that could be maybe a nothing thing, but spirit is all about transparency. They're all about have everything on the table, then you make your decision. Now, when you find out about this one thing, whatever it is, you may still end up doing it, which is fine. But Spirit wants to at least have you have that respect of knowing what this is. So go back to these people and just tell them point blank, there's something you're not telling me. I'm still going to probably do it, but I need to know what it is. So then they start looking at each other, he says, afterwards, and then they divulge what it was. And it was the payment method in which they were going to pay everybody out was supposed to be every month, and it was never mentioned in the contract. In other words, they could pay you out in 5 years. Like there was never any set way of when this was going to get paid out. It was just going to be, this is going to be your payout, but never
Oh,
any time. So I
right.
said, okay, so did that make a difference? Absolutely. He says, I'm going to spend this much money. I want to get that back.
Right.
So he said, it's still a good deal, but I decided not to, because now that withheld that, and that was sort of in his mind a red flag, and he didn't want to do that. So he thanked me, and I didn't know what I did. All I did was feel something, right? And it's just a feeling. I have sometimes no idea where it's going,
Mhm.
but that's what clients are looking at. And it's not so much that I could feel this. I really don't care if I feel it. I want to make my clients feel it. So I'm
Mm.
more of a teacher. I want to teach them how they could do it, because at 3 a.m., or if you're in a boardroom and you're about to make a decision, wouldn't it be nice to have some kind of gut feeling that to do this or not? The fact that you could call me is one thing, but you should do this yourself, because everyone can. It's a skill like anything else. It's like a muscle. The more that you use it, it's stronger it'll get.
Mm.
Mediumship is just like that. When you connect, you're connecting to a larger part of you. And when we look at the some of the terms we hear that our soul, where is our soul in our body? Well, actually, the soul is everywhere. Our higher self is actually part of the whole body. It is the higher self that has a human body. And what you're feeling is just a limited part of your soul that is around you. And the more you expand yourself, you're getting into that higher part of you that you feel. It's always been there, but now you're at a consciousness level and vibration that you can feel it. It's always been there, but now you. And so that really excites me. And that has to do with frequency, whether you get it in meditation, or always saying Om, or always. But I have over 75 different tuning forks that I have now for specific ways and specific applications, where if somebody is just had a breakup, let's say their boyfriend left them, and their heart is just not with it, we can do several things around the heart area in vibration, so that they could catch up on their own. It's knowing that if somebody leaves you, let them go.
Mhm.
This is a blessing. If somebody can't see your value, let them go. And it's usually the opposite, when no one else is going to love me after this person has left, right?
Right.
Sometimes we'll get that. And it's the exact opposite. I said, oh no, God, let them go. This has been a blessing. Because
Yeah.
your grandmother's right beside you, and she didn't like when you were abused the way you were, verbally,
Mm.
embarrassed in front of his friends, just for kicks. Enough's enough. You need more respect. And so she created this chain reaction that made him leave. And now he's thinking that you're going to run after him. And yeah, no, that's not happening. And so
Oh,
the whole thing happens when you look at it and apply it from a frequency perspective. People can understand that. Like,
mhm.
it's still good to have a reading. It's still wonderful to have readings. But when people can see a tool, or see something that, okay, he's doing something, something is happening. It's a little bit like a placebo effect, but this actually isn't. It is actually doing something.
Mhm.
And when they come out, they feel lighter already. They feel lighter. They can't explain it, and I don't need them to. Just the
Yeah.
fact that you feel lighter, you feel more focused, and now with the insight, along with the recalibration of energy, now they can really move forward and make some real amazing changes in their life. I've seen some amazing things, transformations over a very, very short time.
Yeah, I bet you have. Well, you've offered an amazing gift to everyone. So, those of you who are listening to this, if you send him an email, you can request to go to one of his sound baths for their first one for free. So,
Yes.
it's such a gift. I'm excited to check that out myself because I love frequency. I love sound, of course. um, and yeah, Tony, this has just been really enlightening and really helpful for those people, like just to know that you can change, you can choose a different path. You can also choose an awakening. And that's what I got from you is like some people have a spontaneous awakening based on trauma or, and some people can just choose it and follow that path and end up in a completely different state. So thank you for sharing that journey. I think that that was amazing. How can people find you if they'd like to find you? Where do they go?
Well, I have a website called lovehigherself.com, and everything is on there. I We have podcasts that we've also been doing for the last 5 years. Meditation podcasts where it's all about frequency, and all of them is the ones that I've done with spirit. They've had different ideas of how to activate the third eye, so I'll have those frequencies in that soundtrack. That it's just like getting a tuning on a specific part that will enhance whatever it is. So whether it's the heart or the solar plexus, there's various ones. There's over 63, and there's going to be more coming out very soon on those. They can also reach me on my email at info@lovehigherself.com. And yeah, but the website is a good place to start because everything sort of branches from there, and they can get a hold of me. And if they can just mention that if they do hear this recording from your show, yeah, I heard you on Venus, and then they will get a free entrance or admission to the next sound bath that they come to. They would love to have them
Oh, that's so
to
awesome. Thank you so
experience
much.
this. Yeah.
When we'll include all those links, so you guys can just check out the comments below, and all the links will be included, so you can get a hold of Tony. I highly recommend working with him. Even just talking to him, your frequency is going to change. So, thank you, Tony, for being such an amazing guest on our show today. I'm so incredibly grateful for you and your time.
I am very honored to be here. It was an honor to be here and get that invitation. So thank you. I love your work as well. I've been following it, and the spirit just loves what you do. So it's good that we keep going.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and share if you've received something from this. We just really want everybody out there to know that if you're going through some sort of awakening or a shift in your life, that you are not alone and that there are other people out there awakening so we can all awaken to a new reality. And if you know of anyone who has a home with some weird stuff going on, you can just send them to the free quiz, homeclearingquiz.com. Have a wonderful day.
Okay.